and welcome to Oloso Fumar Takes. This is our 258th take, live from the Alec Bradley Lone Star studio of Azle, Texas. I'm your host, Barry Duplessis, as always, and I'm so proud, so pleased, and so privileged to be with you all tonight. This is going to be a fantastic show. This is going to be a show that I've been looking forward to for such a long time, and I know you guys hear me say great things a lot in introductions, but this is one that I've truly been waiting for. I literally met with this man in his office asking for this opportunity months ago, and here we are. It is a culmination of just wonderful events, and we are about to get started. But before we get to introductions of the guest of honor tonight, we do have to thank the people that make this show possible, and that, of course, is our sponsor. And tonight's show is sponsored by Drew Estate. Drew Estate has done it once again. The famous Vitola, the Papas Fritas, is now available in the H99 blend. Yes, the Liga Privada H99, which stormed onto the market just a couple of years ago, is now in that very familiar and very popular size known as Papas Fritas. So the Liga Privada H99 Papas Fritas is now available at a Drew Diplomat retailer near you. Grab some H99 Papas Fritas today and smoke them. So, and enjoy them, and yeah, do some more of that. So that is going to be available any Drew Diplomat retailer for those H99 Papas Fritas. And welcome, everyone. This is our 258th take, and it is with absolute pleasure that I introduce tonight's guest, sponsored by United Cigars. Smoke one today and start living united, Mr. Nicholas Perdomo III of Perdomo Cigars. Nicholas, how you doing tonight?
There, thank you for having me. Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Oh, this is something that I've been waiting for a long time. And I'm so pleased that you could join me tonight. We actually had this conversation earlier this year, and it was right before the birth of your daughter. So that's I knew that we had to plan it out a little bit further, because got to get accustomed to that new lifestyle, man. How's dad life treating you?
The best, man. It's the greatest blessing I've ever had in my life. It's the best. I have nothing else to say about that.
It really is awe-inspiring, man. I mean, I've been a parent now for 8 years, and even when we were jumping on, and I was telling you how I was playing a card game with them. I mean, there's just as great as you feel now, it's crazy to think it gets better.
Gets
better. It's crazy.
My dad says it all the time, and every day it gets better. It really does.
It's wonderful. Congratulations again, man. That's awesome.
Thank you, bro.
So it's really funny about moments sometimes, like snapshots, like I was talking about the card game, and you kind of had one before you started. I asked if she was asleep, and you were like, no, it looks like they're awake, and I could tell you're having like a little bit of a moment. I know you want to be in there with them. So and everything, but
she's winding down. She's ready to go to bed.
Yeah, exactly. But I appreciate you doing the show tonight. It means so much to me. But it's funny about those moments and everything. I was talking to your dad over text message, and I was telling you a little bit before the show. I had the opportunity to be in Scotland last month, a few weeks before the trade show and everything. It's crazy that it feels like it was a lifetime ago, but it was only a month ago that I was there, and I was on the famed old course at St. Andrews, and and I was like, and I didn't know anything. I've never been to St. Andrews. I was like, they're like, when they said that we could walk across the famed bridge and like take pictures, and I was like, fuck it, I'm lighting a cigar. Someone's gonna make me throw it out. I don't care. I'm lighting a cigar. And that's what I'm going to do. So like I grabbed the cigar. I had taken cigars obviously on my trip and everything. And I grabbed a Perdomo 20th Anniversary Connecticut. And I'll tell you why I did. Okay. And I knew it was blasphemy, and I know your dad's going to hate me for saying this. I knew, because like I figured they were going to tell me to pitch it, which would have sucked. Like I obviously want to enjoy the cigar, but I was like, it's windy in Scotland. I was like, I need a cigar that lights. I need a cigar that burns. I need a cigar that's going to taste amazing. And I know that 3 criteria was going to be met. So that's why I grabbed that one. And I knew it was going to suck if I had to throw it out. But the great part is no one cared.
Awesome.
No one cared. I got to light it up. I got to enjoy it. We walked up and down the 18th hole right across the bridge. I took some photos. Got to enjoy the we got to enjoy it, man. It's fantastic, and it was what a great experience, man. It's so much fun.
Thanks for choosing Perdomo.
Of
Appreciate it.
course. Where's a like? Is there been a place like a famous place or something like that that like that you got to smoke? Like I don't know, in front of the Eiffel Tower or something like that. Anywhere that I know, because I know you've traveled a little bit here and there.
I mean, I'm in Rome, you know, outside, not in, but outside like the Colosseum area, you know, walking around, I mean, historic places. I was there last year with my wife when we found out she was pregnant, which was pretty cool. And I mean, that's pretty much, I mean, I've been so blessed. I've been so many places. I'm sure I've been with my dad. I just got to think about it. But I mean, currently, I mean, most recently, I would say it's in Rome, you know, outside of some of the most beautiful historic places, you know.
Isn't it crazy just how old everything is over there?
2,480 years, I believe something.
Yeah, it's just nuts. Just
Yeah,
crazy.
amazing, amazing place.
Like, yeah, everything that we saw was like, you know, like built in like 1,000. There we saw my wife saying it and at Stirling Castle, which is 1,000 years old.
Right.
You know,
Wow.
you know, St. Andrews is not too much younger than that. I mean, it's crazy. Like you said, Rome is so old too. Like it's nuts. Like let's just like to paint this into perspective. Like your family has been in the cigar business for, you are now the fourth generation.
Yeah.
Spanning over well over 100 years, which is a hell of a long time. And that's something that's like new in Europe. Like 100-year-old building is something that's new. It's crazy. It's crazy.
True. Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. That's awesome. What was your, because I know that's like because I know your family is originally from Italy, right? And they came to Cuba, is how that came.
Well, no, originally my family's from Spain. They're from the Canary Islands.
Okay.
It was my great grandfather, great grandparents who came to Cuba.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So what was your favorite part of Rome?
I would have to say St. Peter's Basilica, going to the Vatican.
Oh,
That was the most beautiful place I've ever seen in my life.
that's crazy.
That was my second time going there, but going with my wife and we went with some family friends. It was really special.
It's beautiful. Yeah, it's such an awe-inspiring sight. I just everything there's so much to love about like the Vatican, just how beautiful it is, the history and everything. It's crazy. So
Incredible.
well, I know I'm itching too. I'm pretty sure you probably are too. I'd like to light up one of these cigars that you were able to get me. And thank you so much again. I'm so excited for the opportunity to smoke the all new Perdomo 30th anniversary with you. So we've got, of course, Connecticut sun-grown and Maduro options here. And as is a tradition here on LS Fumar Takes, my guest picks the cigar for me. So I will smoke whichever one you would like me to smoke with you tonight. I'm excited for it.
So you have more 30th anniversary than I do. So the only 30th I have with me is the 30th sun-grown. So we're gonna light and cut our brand new 30th anniversary sun-grown.
Okay, so we're doing sun-grown. Perfect. So I told you, I told you that this, for everyone else tuning in, like this is an honest, organic moment. I told Nicholas was like telling me, he's like, well, I can tell you which one I want to pick. And I said, no, we'll do it organically. It's fine. I said, I have tidbits on all of them. And so, so here's the story about my history with Perdomo cigars and sungrowns. So I can almost for universally say that with the double aged 12-year is probably the only blend where I don't prefer, if there's a sun-grown Connecticut offering, where I don't prefer the sun-grown over the Connecticut. So the double age, I prefer the Connecticut over the sun-grown. Pretty much everything else, the sun-grown is like my jam. I love all three of them, but the sun-grown is totally my jam. So I'm super excited. I was hoping you would pick it, but I didn't want to sway you anyway. I would have smoked anything. I'm so honored. to have this opportunity with you. So, but thank you so much. So,
and I'm glad this is a special cigar. Bear, it's 15-year age tobaccos. It's the brand that's in honor of my parents, my mother and my father, and 30 years of being in business. And it's really the best of the best in terms of materials and tobaccos. We cannot make a better cigar in terms of really just what goes into this blend. It's something so special. And our Vice President, Arthur Kemp, myself, we had a lot on our shoulders because we actually surprised my dad and my mom with this brand at the PCA trade show this year. They saw it the night before the first day of the trade show. So we had a lot going into this. I mean, we gave my dad cigars prior. So, we had him initially sign off in terms of the blends. And so, but he never saw the packaging literally up until the last night before the first day of the show. So it's something we're really proud of. I'm just thankful that he loves it too. So
I know you've come such a long way in the business, and obviously he's your son and he loves you. And I know Arthur's family at this point. But I know how your dad is about everything being hands-on with everything. How did you guys convince him to allow you to surprise him like this?
that was Arthur's doing. So I mean, my dad and Arthur Kemper, I compare it to Lennon and McCartney. That's a dynamic duo. And Arthur has a way, and Arthur said, "Listen, this is important to me, being working with you for so many years, and this is our 30th anniversary, which is a very big deal to be in business for 30 years. This is something I want to work on, and I want to surprise you and Janine." And really, it was him giving the best that he had, and I really believe that he struck gold in terms of the design, in terms of the packaging, and we really worked hard in terms of who we were able to allot this product to, customers, and really our business partners, guys we've been doing business with 10, 20 plus years. So we're very, this is such a special project. And since from the time Arthur started with the artwork all the way to now, being able to show the brand, it's really just been a pleasure and just a joy. And it's just so happy to share 30 years with our customers, our business partners, and the end consumer.
I gotta tell you, I love the packaging and the labeling of it. You said that I wanted to go, so since we're smoking Sungrow, you said you had the box. I'd love for the audience to take a look at the box there. This is
Sure.
I had the opportunity a couple weeks ago to see it at the trade show, but man, I mean, this is beautiful. So yeah, go ahead and hold it up to the camera.
So this is the Sungrown. I got a little glare. Sorry about this. 30th anniversary. So Perdomo shows the date 1992, 2022, and then 30 años, 30 years. And then this is the inside of the cigar, Churchill size. So you see the different medals. These are old Cuban medals from exhibitions of awards from different countries. So, this is a brand that it's new. It looks different from, it's Perdomo, but it's not. It's new in terms of the type of design. And Arthur, again, did a tremendous job, knocked it out of the park. But it pays homage to, I think, our family, going back to my great-grandfather and my grandfather, to the days of Cuba to today. So I see there's a blend in terms of, tying everything together as a family, 30 years of being in business in the United States and going back to Cuba and with the art, things like that. So it's something that I'm really proud of. It's something I love. And Arthur, again, did a tremendous job. This is the Maduro. So black box with blue, again, with the foil.
Oh, God, I love it.
Different metals. And this is the shelf talker, and you can really see it. Absolutely pops. So it's something that, just absolutely gorgeous, beautiful Maduro wrappers. And we have, last but not least, our Connecticut. So it has the black seal, so kind of like a light blonde type of color to the wood. Really beautiful wood, grain. This is Connecticut. Box press, by the way. So all three blends are box press. It's a nice box press Connecticut. So we're really proud of this. And the cigars are special. They're soft. You know, in terms of the blend, when you look at 20th anniversary versus 30th anniversary, a lot of the questions I've gotten is, well, really, what's the difference? I would say the tobaccos in 30th are a little softer. I mean, you know, 20th anniversary, we utilize 8-year age tobaccos, wrapper, binder, filler leaves, and this tobacco literally 15-year age tobaccos. So, I mean, it's a softer blend. Like my dad says, this is like our Macallan 55. This is really the best of the best in terms of age. And it's amazing how we've been able to take these tobaccos, having them proper humidity, keeping them in the proper, just proper humidity controlled areas where we're able to, this tobacco, it hasn't lost any flavors. There's still punch to it. There's still tremendous aroma. There's tremendous flavors. So it's a cigar that's still, even with that well-aged type of tobaccos, 15-year age tobaccos, which no one has that type of tobacco really in terms of inventory, being able to release a full line. And again, this is kudos to my dad for seeing, you know, going back so many years, buying more tobacco, you know, 15, 20 plus years ago, buying more and more tobacco than we ever needed, because he always wanted to keep well-aged inventories for one day. Like today, now we have our 30th anniversary where we're able to utilize tobaccos like this in blends. So, you know, this is just, it's tremendous.
Yeah, I was so excited about this project, and we've kind of talked about it. I think, you know, it seems like forever now, but you know, in true Perdomo fashion, you guys don't release anything till it's absolutely perfect and ready. And I mean, just few puffs into this, and I mean, you hit the nail on the head. You can taste like the difference between like other sun-grown products from Perdomo. I think softer is a really good way of describing it. But there's this I do a lot of age experimentation, Nicholas, with my cigar collection and stuff, and I like to see where cigars smoke, you know, down the line. You can taste this is aged. Like I'm really good with my words usually, and I'm really good at like describing how flavors taste on my palate. But there's something about aged tobacco that, like, you know it when you smoke it. It's just one of those things, like you can just taste it. And this is absolutely terrific. So far, I was so excited about tonight. You know, I was excited about our conversation, but I was so excited to share a cigar with you and to share these cigars with you. So thank you again for this opportunity.
Thank
So
you.
I really love what you guys are doing with I mean, to go back to the packaging though, I love what you guys are doing with that deep blue. Like, you don't see that. You guys put that on the lot 23. Of course, it was on the 10th anniversary releases that you did during COVID, the spins off of that. The red and the blue just really work. Is it what I know I've asked this question before, and I really apologize for not remembering the answer, but is there a significance to that? You know, because I mean, you see blue's becoming a little bit more popular, but the deep blue that you guys are using, I think, is incredibly unique. Is there a reason the blue you guys chose that?
Well, so I mean, going back, so you know, when we repackaged Lot 23 and we were going to introduce 10th anniversary of Maduro, I mean, going back, you know, blue it's my dad's favorite color, but it was always a color that never really did well in terms of sales. So we were a little bit hesitant, and Arthur, just the different color, the different blues that he chose, especially with Lot 23, but really the blue that he chose with our Perdomo 10th anniversary Maduro. You know, it was a risk, you know, when we thought about it, we're coming out with a cigar that's got blue in the packaging, but it's just, he just has such an eye for the different tones and how it prints and how it complements the foils within the bands, within the vistas, within all the artwork. So, you know, it's something that worked because it's not a neon blue. It's not a very vibrant. It's subtle. And when you look at 30th anniversary, the blue, it's got that royal blue. It goes so well with the powdered golds. It goes well with the holographic, you know, the foil and things like that. So it's something that I'm happy we're doing, because originally it's always been, you know, we always put black on darker type of cigars, but I think the blue pops more. I think when you're in a humidor, I think you see it from farther away. It just gives a little bit more of a pop on the shelf. So I think it was a great decision by Arthur.
Absolutely. I remember it was, that's what it was. It was your dad's favorite color, but I remember talking about the strategy around blue, using it and how it was a risk, compared to the market at the time. Now you're starting to see it. So maybe you guys are just, you guys are trendsetters, not so, but yeah, but it's a deep, like there's no one else is using that color blue. It's like that it's very deep. It's just a deep blue that it just, oh God, it just looks beautiful. I also really like the black on the Connecticut too. That contrast really, really works well. And I think this might be like a little bit over the top too, but I think it also, it signifies to, I haven't smoked the 30th Connecticut yet, so I can't tell you like if this matches the flavor profile, but what I like about it especially one of my favorite cigars is the Double Aged 12 Connecticut. We were talking about that earlier, was like that cigar. I'm like, my eyes are glazing over just thinking about how awesome it is. Like that cigar is so incredibly deep in flavor, and that's not a mild cigar. Like it's incredibly full flavored, and it has body to it. It has strength to it. It's not overpowering, which makes it just what I love so much about it. But I love how the black contrasts with it. It's really, really well done too.
Thank you. Yeah, it was something. There's tons of gold in this brand. I mean, even when you look at I know you have the sungroom, but you see, it's red, but there's so much gold. So it made sense for us to use the black. It's weird to put gold on gold on gold, that you would lose that contrast.
Mm-hmm.
But just having the black on the Connecticut is totally different.
Yeah, I'll hold that up here again. Like you can see it even through the cellophane. Like how, like you said, like the gold on gold on gold would have been too much, but that little black, especially on the back too, it just really separates it out and really makes the label pop. It's really cool.
It really does.
So, again, I know your dad signed off on the blend and everything. How involved were you in the blending process of this cigar?
So Arthur and I, we went through and we blended the cigar along with our team in Nicaragua. We actually gave the cigars to my dad in the end, naked, with no band, of course, or anything like that. So we did go through the blending process. We wanted to make a cigar again, utilizing 15-year age tobaccos, and making sure that the blend was soft, but had balance, had finesse, and also had that Nicaraguan flavor where you have some strength, but again, balance. So, I think we achieved it. And my dad initially, because we're always going to keep my dad involved in terms of the blending of the cigar. He has to sign off on it. Every brand we have, every cigar we make, it's blended by my dad. And even though he didn't necessarily blend the cigar himself, he approved the cigar. And if the cigar wasn't to his liking, trust me, he would have changed it. So I'm glad that we're on the same page.
So that we're already in the thick of it here, but I do need to mention this is tonight's major point. We are talking about the 30th anniversary of Perdomo Cigars, and we're with tonight's major point is always brought to you by the people. Yes, cigar people who know everything about a lifetime of service. Protocol Cigars is more than just pool parties and good times. Well, maybe it is, but behind the fun is a motivation for service, a motivation for giving back. From the original Protocol Blue to the latest release in the Lawman series, Phoebe Cousins, Protocol has always been about honor, passion, and yes, the people. It's what their life's work has been and always will be about. Power of the P, Protocol Cigars. So as we're talking about this project, Nicholas, the thing that really kind of stands out to me too, I just kind of want to go back to this because like I think it's so cool, but that had to be, I mean, well, I don't know. I mean, I'll just ask it. I mean, how, since your father hadn't seen it until like literally the night before you guys go on the trade show floor to showcase it to the world, how, like, were you nervous? Were you like what were those motions like right before he saw it for the first time?
I wasn't nervous because I knew how. So going back a little bit, I actually saw the brand 5 weeks, 6 weeks before my dad saw it. Arthur is literally, he's been working on this brand for 3 years and he showed no one. He showed absolutely no one. So it was kind of a relief for him to show it to someone. I remember him telling me, "Man, I feel so relieved showing you," because at the end of the day, I told him, I said, you know, I'm not going to tell my dad. It's a surprise. It's an honor of him. It's an honor of my mother, our family, 30 years. I'm never going to say anything, but let me see it, because I was pushing him also. I'm dying to see it, but I wasn't so nervous because I knew my dad would love it. It's Perdomo. It's different in terms of some of the old school packaging, Cuban-esque things from when my family was in the industry, you know, many, many years ago, 70 plus years ago in Cuba, and today, you know, our type of artwork. So I knew my dad would love it. And what was really cool is we showed him the brand and my mother at Delmonico Steakhouse at the Venetian, and we had Dave Garofalo with us. And so it was pretty cool, you know, having not only just him, you know, my parents, but also having Dave and Ed Santa Maria, his right hand. So it was great. But Arthur was the one who I think was very nervous, because you can imagine, you know, 36 plus months of, you know, hiding something from my dad, which has never happened and probably will never happen again. You know, but it was incredible watching my dad open that box. I can still see it like it was yesterday. My dad's usually not for a loss of words many times, as you know, but he took it all in, man. He really loved it. So it was just, we're very happy.
That's awesome. Oh God, to be a fly on that wall. 30 years of such like rich history. We were talking about this before we talked about the show. I've had the opportunity to interview your dad a couple of times. I've had the opportunity to interview Arthur, which was a real treat. And then now tonight is just a huge honor for me. I love going back in your family's history, because there's just, it's so like, the word rich does not really describe it. It's kind of an understatement, but it really is. Like, it's just, there's a rich family history there that goes back even the generations, you know, like what your father has done for this industry, what his dad has done for this industry, like even beyond the Perdomo name, is just unbelievable. This was something new that I hadn't known, but and I wanted to talk to you about this. So your great grandfather and grandfather actually like moved pretty high up before they left Cuba, moved pretty high up in the ranks at the Partagas and H. Upman factories, right? They were pretty high up in production.
Rival. They were rival. My great grandfather was at Partagas. So my grandfather was at H. Upman. My great grandfather's brother was Minister of Tobacco, Jose Perdomo. They actually have a book on him, all in Spanish. You know, I mean, we were very heavily involved in the industry, and you know, after, of course, what happened after 1959 going into 60, my grandfather defected in 62, came to Washington D.C. My great grandfather, he got out of prison. He was a political prisoner in Cuba. I believe he came to the United States in 1972. He was 72 or 73. He was held he was a political prisoner for 13 years. So, I mean, when my family came to the United States, we had nothing. And, you know, my dad, he was so inspired his whole life from hearing the stories from my grandfather, hearing the stories from my great grandfather, you know, about the good old days. You know, that's what really ignited a fire inside my dad. He wanted to continue. So it was special.
So you know, as the story goes, your father starts this company in his garage. You were 9 months old, if that, when this.
No, I was, well, I mean, when my dad started, a couple months before I was born.
Oh, before you're born, even, yeah. And that's when he was holding down, like basically working 24 hours around the clock, air traffic controller, because that's a stress-free job, and then moonlighting and starting a cigar company.
My dad always said air traffic controlling for him was like playing a video game without having to put a quarter in. That was his. People freak out when they talk about, I'm an air traffic controller. He's always been calm, cool, and collected.
I can see that. Like, I can see that now. Like, because I knew about your, you know, his history in the Navy and everything. for whatever part of that, for the part of his life that I had maybe missed that part about him being an air traffic controller, but I'm like, that all makes sense now, having got to know him pretty well over the last few years. I'm like, yeah, like I could see him being the calm, cool, and collected type, because it's a stressful job. And
Yeah,
yeah,
he's like, oh, I got 21 seconds. I got two 737s coming right at each other. And let me move them. Let me vector. Let me take them this way. This degree, that degree. Like nothing. He talks about the stories. I go, man, if I had three, one plane's got a couple hundred people, about to die, I'd be kind of freaking out. But that's my dad. He's nothing phases my dad.
it's crazy. So I saw this I saw this old picture of Nick's Cigar Company, the original corporate headquarters after you guys moved out of the garage, the one on Flagler Street.
Yeah, Flagler
Street. And yeah, I remember you talking to you. It was really cool. If anyone out there has not checked out the Perdomo YouTube channel, you need to. Great interview. Your dad interviewing you.
Yeah.
And you were talking about how you remember, like even as a young boy, remember that location specifically, like down to like the tiles on the floor and everything, and just how reminiscent of it was it like for you and everything. Like looking back, now as an adult, you obviously recognize the significance about like where y'all started and where you're coming from and everything. But at the time, like what was it like, going to work, with your family and obviously you weren't working at 3 years old. I don't know, your dad might have been putting you to work, but but what was that like?
I ran around. It was like my playground. To me, it was huge. And it's funny, my wife, she grew up in that area. It's Cuban, basically part of Little Havana when you really look at it. And, I said, hey, sweetie, we were going out. This is probably about 6-7 years ago. I said, hey, let me show you my dad's old factory. We used to rent this place on Flagler Street, 7111. And so I remember I go in, I get out of the car and I walk to the door. I go, man, this thing was like a shoebox. As a kid, I remember I thought it was huge, like in my mind, man, this was a big place. My goodness, man, where my dad, it hit me. I said, man, how far my dad's come. Just determination, betting on yourself, never, ever, ever, ever giving up. That was the lesson I always learned in life, man, from my dad. Don't give up, and I would always think when there were things, whether it was things in school or whatever, sport, I said, man, I'm going to throw the towel in, I'm done, whatever. I always, back in my mind, I always think of my dad, man, my dad never quit. I'm not going to quit. So I never wanted to quit because I wanted to be like my dad. And it's funny, my dad was the guy, when he came in the industry, he was the guy who was supposed to not make it. That's who he was. And I got a phone call a couple of weeks ago from a tobacconist, our first customer, a guy by the name of Jack Pennington from Pennington Cigar. And my dad went to visit him and started talking with him. And, Jack told me, he said, Nicholas, I knew there was something about your dad. It was, your dad just had this personality that he was gonna take over. And he was like, you know what, the guy just started. And I believed in him because there was just something about him that I knew he would deliver for me. I knew he would come through. And I believed in him. He was a young guy. My dad was 27 years old. He was younger than me at this time.
Yeah, I was just going to say, yeah.
And, he was just like, man, there was just something about your dad. I believed him. And I just remember saying, yeah, my dad, it was a story of time. That's how we built this. My dad always says we beat the shoe leather. And he just never quit, man. Guys would tell him no, and then say, okay, fine. Because just of his persistence and just never quitting, never giving up, never, ever, ever give up. That's just my dad.
It's, I've had this opportunity like in my lifetime, and I've met, especially in this industry, I've met some amazing people, but like, just like even outside the industry, like you meet people like that like the circumstances of the reality that they're in right now, like doesn't really define them. Like, yes, was your dad making cigars out of your family garage? And I'm in a garage right now. Like that's where my studio is. And I like look around as you're telling the story and I'm like, It might have been the same size. It might have been smaller, but like this isn't much space. And you know, he sold 1 million cigars out of that thing. Like it's just nuts. It's just crazy. And it's, you know, to go from that to now like vertical and total vertical integration. You guys have farms, you guys have infrastructure. What's the nick? Am I understanding the nickname of the factory down in Nicaragua is El Monstro, right? I'm probably mispronouncing that. Is that correct?
A monster, yeah.
So that's it's
88,000 square meter, huge facility. It was at the time it was the biggest facility in all of SW. It was the Taj Mahal. It was huge, and my dad, it was way too big for us, way too big for us. You know, him and my grandfather, they built that factory, and but because my dad, he always was always looking ahead, man. It's not looking now. My dad built a factory way bigger than what we needed because he knew in his heart, he knew in his mind, he knew in his soul that we were gonna be able to fill that factory up, and potentially we're gonna outgrow that factory. And that's how my dad's wired. That's how he's driven. He's always gonna put the money on himself. He's always gonna put his money on himself. He's done it from day one. He does it to this day, and it's just the culture of our company. It's just push, 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 push some more. That's just what we do.
so you said this a couple of minutes ago when you were saying how like you always wanted to be like your dad. Like what, like I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but like was there a particular quality or something that you like were instantly attracted to? Like I know as sons, like we want to be like our fathers, but and I can tell you why. What about my father? I mean, we could have a little exchange about this, but what was it about your dad that you're like, that's what I want to be like?
I was his strength, and not just, you know, physically strong. He was just so strong. My dad he just overcame and overcame obstacles. You know, I never saw. I mean, I saw my dad. You know, the only time I ever saw my dad really break down was the death of my grandfather. It was so unexpected. But even then, just we had bad luck with certain things within a factory, whether it was, you know, just, you know, death of my grandfather, you know, employees who took advantage, things. My dad just he just always pushed and just said, you know what, this happened, but I'm going to push through. And he just never quit. He just kept pushing through. And really his strength, and just watching my dad go, man, does this guy ever have a bad day? I remember as a kid just thinking, like, does he have a bad day? I mean, does he, what is his kryptonite? What, you know, he just always pushes, always on the road, always in Nicaragua, always doing something. He just never stopped. And I just said, man, I want to be like my dad. Look at just the strength that he has, the willpower, the determination. Just it's a culmination. There's so many things there, but really just the motor, the strength. That's what I always admired. Really, one of the things I admired my dad. And outside of his integrity, his honesty, he's just going to tell you one way or another whether you like it or not. It's my dad, but.
Mhm. For me, my father had this incredible, and I'm blessed with it too. My dad had this incredible memory. And we've talked about this, and it's going to come up later in the show too. But now he's unfortunately he's become ill. He's suffering from Alzheimer's and onset dementia and everything. But
Sorry.
I know, thank you. It's when that's the quality that you look at, and now it's you know, just disappearing. It's gut wrenching. You don't wish it on your worst enemy. It's terrible. But the way he was with people was just something that I was like, you know, like he never met a stranger, and he always remembered people. We would run into people at restaurants and stuff. It's something that drives my wife absolutely bonkers. Is I have a similar quality too. I've met people over the years and stuff, and we've been all over the world. We've traveled and stuff, and you know, nowhere near Texas, and like I'll run into somebody I know. It just happens, and it drives her freaking nuts, man. She just can't believe it. She's like, how the hell do you know somebody? I was like, I don't know. It's just one of those things. It's crazy.
Yeah, my dad's excellent with names. That's his trademark. He'll remember people he'll meet somebody, you know, he would have met somebody 10 years ago and he sees them 10 years later and he remembers people. It's a gift. It really is.
Yeah, I didn't think he would. It's funny you mention. I remember when longtime member of the extended Perdomo family, Dave Dietrich, passed away, and y'all came into town, and that was, I think, the second time that I had met him, and you know, I shook his hand, I told him I was sorry, and I was like, I know you don't remember. He's like, of course I remember you, Bear, and I was like, okay. So yeah, no, it's I can definitely vouch for that. I wanted to see if this, and if I have the memory wrong, I do apologize, Nicholas, but I wanted to go back a little bit in your history too. I think you were maybe your last year of high school, maybe early college, but it was a moment when you were smoking. I think your parents had gone out of town and you'd lit up a Perdomo Habano Presidente. And that's when you really started thinking about the business, right? And how you may be able to go into it. Is that right? Ringing any bells, or am I completely off? And I apologize if I'm off.
No, you actually brought me back to a time where I was on my knees and I was praying to God to help me, because the Perdomo Habano Presidente was a cigar that's 7x56. It was a brand that I was in high school. I was in 9th or 10th grade, and I went out. I told my mom, I'll take out the trash. And I smoked the Perdomo Habano Presidente in 25 minutes. I came back and I was throwing up in the toilet because my mom never liked me smoking cigars. My dad, he could care less. He just didn't want me to do it because it would upset my mom. But I was always smoking cigars. But to be honest with you, that's all I've ever wanted to do. And all I can remember, what I really remember is being in our second location, our second factory in Nicaragua. And that's the lead. We had it next to, we lived in a boarding house where my grandfather, we would rent. And I remember just being in the office and seeing my dad and my grandfather talking. And as a kid, I just remember saying, wow, man, how cool is it that my dad gets to work with his dad? And I would love to work with my dad. I would love to work with my grandfather. Fortunately, I never was able to work with my grandfather, but he taught me a lot and he gave me tremendous lessons at a very young age, and I miss him dearly to this day. But it was always in my blood. It was always something that it's the only thing I really ever wanted to do. I never had any aspirations to ever look at another industry, another job. Never since I can remember.
Because it was so much a part of your identity when you're younger. I mean, like, you had to have classmates, and I know you went to college as well. I mean, so many of your classmates, probably just similar to mine, they just had no idea what they wanted to do with life, you know? And
probably still don't, some.
right, exactly. Having that goal, you know, so early on and everything, and something to strive for. I mean, it had to give you such direction, which was really good. But, like, you know, knowing your dad as you were, I know you knew it wasn't going to be handed to you. Like, where did you see yourself starting before you eventually hopefully got to have the opportunity that your dad did, which was work with right next to his, you know, his father and everything? Like, where did you see yourself starting, and where did you actually end up starting with the company?
Where he told me, in the warehouse.
Okay.
That's where because he always told me, you're going to learn everything from the bottom up. And that's something that, you know, I look back and I thank God that he didn't put me in a desk, that he didn't put me, you know, just in a position because I'm just Nick's kid. I think everything where I'm at today, I've earned it. And I'm just blessed that my dad was tough on me, or is tough on me. Because I know that there's so much that goes into the business. There's so much that went into the business that my dad had to do, things that I don't have to do because he did it. And I have to really follow. I have to stay on the line and stay on the same wavelength that he's on, that Arthur's on. Because at the end of the day, it's a team game, It really is. This whole thing is a team game, and every part, we all have to be on the same page. Every part has to be spinning. It's something that I'm thankful that I started at the bottom, really. And there's really no one who can tell me what this department does or this department or this, because I've been a part of it. So I'm thankful my dad had me start years ago, from the bottom, really.
Did it? I mean, because you've risen through the ranks. Again, you've done everything, and you've absolutely. And I'll emphasize that too, Nicholas. I think you have earned it. Because again, knowing your father like I do, and knowing your father, he would never have put you in the position that you're in if you didn't think you were ready and if you weren't capable of it. So I think that's evident that you've earned what you've done. But was there ever a time that did it ever frustrate you? Did you ever think of like, did it ever become a grind for you, or was it always just a part of that puzzle of, no, this is part of what's going to complete me of where I want to be?
No, I knew I had to follow really the plan. The only time I've ever gotten frustrated is because, at a young age, listen, I'm married, I have a baby, and my whole thing is I want to do more because I just have such a fire inside of me. I'm 30 years old. I want to do more physically. I'm able to do more. I at this point in my life, I think anything's attainable. The bars are set high for my dad, and I just want to reach as far as I can. I just want to do as much as I can. I want to do more and more. But in terms of frustrated because of the things that my dad had me do, I knew going in, I was mentally prepared myself, saying, "There's a reason. There's a reason. Trust my dad. Trust dad. There's a reason." And I never got frustrated that way. I wouldn't even say the word frustrated, but I just always want to do more because I believe in myself. I believe in our company, and I just have never been more motivated, especially at this stage in my life. At this point, having married and having a daughter, a baby daughter, I've never been more motivated to do more. Ever.
Yeah, I think that it's evident in like projects like We're Smoking Here, which by the way, Pat Jones is in the chat, one of y'all's awesome sales reps for my territory, actually. I think he was asking me what I thought of it. I said, this is the first experience. I was told him I was enjoying it. Man, this is absolutely just stunning smoke. I mean, I've smoked a ton of sun-grown Perdomo cigars over the years, different lines, different brands, different blends. Enjoyed them all immensely. This is absolutely stunning. There's a sweetness to the sun-grown that I would say your sun-grown isn't necessarily known for. The double H brings it out, right? A little bit from that bourbon barrel, a little bit more because of that extra aging in the barrel brings out it typically, but like other sun-growns that I've smoked from you don't have this. There's this sweetness in it that's just really, really creamy, which you don't typically get in a sun-grown. That, oh man, this is everything I hoped for and I wanted it to be, man. It's fantastic. It's fantastic.
One of the
Well
more
done.
naturally sweet sun-grown, because sun-grown wrappers usually give somewhat of an earthiness, a little bit more of a cinnamon spice type of, just like type of flavor. But really, this cigar, the way we blended the filler tobaccos, utilizing tobaccos more from Jalapa, for example, which provides more sweeter, aromatic type of tobaccos. We toned down some of the tobaccos from Esteli, which is how we were able to accomplish exactly what you're saying. This isn't your normal sun-grown wrap cigar, Cuban seed sun-grown wrap cigar. This is a cigar that does have that natural, that cinnamon spice flavor off the wrap, but you get that nice finish towards the end. And to me, that's one of my favorite things in the world. To me, it pairs so well together. Yeah.
For me, that baking spice, that cinnamon that you're talking about is so prevalent in the aroma coming off the foot. Like I've been kind of wafting the smoke back into my face just so just so I can kind of experience it. And that's where I'm getting some of that. And that, again, that is something completely different. Like the sun-grown cigar, a lot of the sun-grown cigars that I smoke from Perdomo, I love the aroma, but it's typically it's a spicy aroma. You can smell the pepper and like the leatherness too, you know, this kind of leathery, earthy component that's it's very alluring. But like, I think that's one of the things that I really enjoy about Perdomo cigars overall is like the they're very vivid smokes. Like for me, they're very nostalgic. I've smoked Perdomo cigars since I started smoking cigars pretty much. And like there are so many times that I remember lighting up Perdomo cigars. And so like whenever I smoke one, it always takes me back to different moments and stuff. And I remember lighting a Nick stick of all things, Nick stick outside of my college dormitory back in college. And I remember like someone asked me like what it was. I remember telling like this probably half-assed version of your family story because I only knew whatever I read at the time, you know, which wasn't very, you know, the internet was around, but it wasn't as full of stuff as it was then. But I remember rattling off some of your family history, even as early as that. Like that was 20 years ago, which is crazy to think about. So, which is nuts. So, but this is wonderful. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Just a couple more things about the cigar too, and kind of going back to the trade show. So we talked about your dad's reaction and when he first saw it, and your mother's as well. So what was her like? Because she was the first time she saw it as well, correct? I mean, were her feelings pretty similar?
They were. I mean, my mother, she's really into, she loves things, packaging, things that, purses she uses, the clothes. She's always looking at packaging. My mother's got great attention to detail. And so, her also approving, of course, was a big deal because I think overall, I think women more so than men have such a better attention to detail to certain things, especially when it comes to packaging. And they notice things sometimes that we don't see. So it was cool seeing my mother, approve as well, of course. They were both shocked, to be quite honest with you. They knew it was going to be special, but man, I mean, listen, Bear, this is so cool being able to look at the cigar smoking with you on the show and seeing 30th anniversary. It feels like yesterday became 20th anniversary, and just the art, just the colors, the golds, the powdered golds, the holographic. This is awesome, man. This is great. This is the best.
It is. I mean, 30 years. It represents. I mean, it's a representation of your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's what's, when you were in high school, dreaming about this day, not talking to me on a podcast, but dreaming about this day is where you are in the company and everything. When you were in high school thinking about that, that's when these cigars were, that's when these tobaccos were being grown.
Yeah, these were crops in 2008, latter part of 2008. I mean, incredible. I just got my license. It was cool. Yeah. It's pretty amazing. But again, going back to my dad, I mean, him buying tobacco for so many years, more inventory of tobaccos and growing tobacco more than we ever needed. It just goes to show just the vision that my dad had and still has, because he's always buying double, triple, for example, Connecticut wrappers. He's always growing double, triple, more filler tobaccos that we need from Estolita, from Jalapa, from Candega. It's our company, it's our culture. It's my dad, and he just sees the future. And he sees things totally different. So again, I'm just really proud of him because we surprised him with the artwork, we surprised him with the blends, but if it wasn't for him, the cigars wouldn't exist. Plain and simple.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, you could tell, you can absolutely, that's I think that's the magic of what your family has created, because you can taste the fingerprints, you know, you can taste the fingerprints, you can see it too, and the design and everything and what you guys have built. It's quite the experience. And I know that, you know, we've got a lot of a lot of the Perdomo Army is tuning in tonight, but you know, for people out there who want to, who, aren't necessarily regular Perdomo cigar smokers, like this is a treat. This is something you need to treat yourself to. When are they expected to be on the shelves? I know you guys are like, it's going to be an ongoing release, ongoing production, obviously, just like everything else that you guys do. But I know you're releasing it to a limited amount of your top retailers at the in the at least the first couple of runs. When does that happen?
So we're looking at a fourth quarter release. It's going to be around November. We're looking to that's the date. The target date's November. We're looking. I mean, we initially released the brand to 75 customers. The reason for that is we didn't just say, hey, we're just going to sell to 75 customers. Based on the inventories of tobacco, again, utilizing 15-year age tobacco, I have to be able to build my inventories for the future of tobacco, from the 10, from the 11, 12 crops, things like that. I have to be able to space this out so I don't run out of the blend. So really what we're doing is this is the initial release, but we're initially releasing it to 75 accounts so that those accounts can continuously reorder the brand, not have back orders, so we can deliver. And so eventually, as we continue to increase our inventories of tobaccos, we're going to start to do a lot the brand to more customers, because I don't want people to be upset at us. We're not playing a game. This is simply, I'm being as honest and transparent as possible. Our company is, because we have to protect this brand for the future, because we know that this cigar, as you're smoking it, it's one of the finest cigars, in my opinion, in the market, that will be on the market. So we have to protect this brand and make sure that it's here for years to come.
And so that was going to lead into my next question too. So like, obviously these are 15-year tobaccos. You've talked a couple times tonight about how much your father was able to put back over the years and everything as well. So with it being ongoing, obviously, like the initial 2007, 2008 crop will run its course at some point, but obviously there'll be 2008, 2009 that kind of takes its place, because it'll always kind of be that 15-year age run. Am I assuming? If I'm assuming too much here, please correct me.
As time goes on, but you have to remember, we're using tobaccos from the same, even though it's from the same areas of the farm. Everything's from the same seed. The blends will stay consistent. But that's time goes. But the flavors, the taste of tobaccos, they're going to be the same, because they come from the same farms, from the same seeds. And over time, we're just building, it's just going to continue to go through. But we have tobaccos that are literally put aside, that are still aging, 10, 11, 12-year-old tobaccos that eventually will be part of this blend, but it's part of it. But they are from the same seed variety, from the same farms. So the consistency is going to be there. So the blend will literally never change. It's going to be the same.
Yeah, I know we're bouncing around a lot, but just to go back, and when you first started with the company, actually, this was, if I remember correctly, I think the story was even older than that. I think you were still a kid at the time. You were working alongside your dad and grandfather at the time. And I remember he was talking to you about fermentation, how it needs to be correct, and how he would pull wrapper leaf out of pilons and show you by burning the hole and showing the combustion rate and stuff like that.
Yeah, and the other thing is too is it's the Cuban way. It's using your hands, using your eyes, your nose, taste, of course. In terms of when the tobacco is red. Yeah, seeing in terms of wrap, that was when we use wrapper tobacco. But even today we've evolved. Really, when you have to actually use the leaf and wrap the leaf around. You can take a cigar and you can with the cherry of the cigar and put it up against the leaf and see how it expands. But the truth of the matter is, today we don't even do that anymore. We actually wrap the leaf around a cigar, see how it smokes, see the burn, see the color of the ash, and so the combustibility overall. So, but I was fortunate to see and have memories like what you said. I remember those times. So
This is again taking me back in all my memories of it. I can honestly say this, like, the company is slim, right? I I can count on one hand, and it doesn't take that many fingers. And Perdomo cigars are one of them where I've never had, knock on wood. I've never had I don't need to knock on wood because I've had so many of them, but I've never had a poor experience like constructurally with the cigar, or even flavor wise either too. Like, cause again, it's that consistency that we're talking about. Like the cigars draw perfect every time. I know you guys draw test everything, so that's going to happen. The construction is always impeccable. And, like I remember, I remember watching a video that your father did talking about when a cigar canoes, like how to correct it or why that happens. And he was talking about that too. I remember watching that video and thinking, I'm like, I've never had that experience with a Perdomo cigar, but I remember one time smoking a Perdomo, and it was a small batch. I remember those. God, those were good. And I remember I didn't have, it was at my parents' house. I didn't have, if you could believe it or not, I didn't have a lighter. So I was like, well, shit, I gotta light the cigar somehow. So I literally ran in the house, and my mom's probably going to see this later and she's probably going to hate me for it. But I remember running in the house and I turned the stove on. We had a gas stove, and I lit that cigar so quick because I didn't want her to smell it or see it or anything like that. And I mean, I scorched that damn thing, man. And that was, I mean, one of the worst light jobs I've ever done on a cigar. And like, man, for the first like inch or so, man, it was so uneven. It was all user error on me. But I remember smoking it, and I was like, I'm not going back in. I'm not going to try to fix it. I'm just going to ride this thing out. And I remember how it fixed itself, and it ended up about the halfway point. It started evening out, and it was just one of the coolest things I'd ever seen in a cigar at that time. It was pretty early on in my career, at least, and it was a really fun experience. It was cool.
Everything is attention to detail and looking at how we tube the cigars when we put the tobacco in the bunch. Just how we train our rollers, our punchers. It's just, and also too, my dad created, literally 18 different checkpoints before a cigar goes into a box. Cigars are always being touched, always being passed through draw testers, always being looked at. Because listen, Bear, at the end of the day, the cigar, it's got my last name on it. It has my family's last name on it. And that's what you see. If the cigar doesn't burn right, if it doesn't taste right, you see my name. And listen, it's a handmade product. Are there cigars, unfortunately, that might not be 100%? Sure, there are. But this is what makes our industry so special, because it's all handmade products. But overall, I think that my dad's done a tremendous job of creating a standard within our facilities in Esteli, Nicaragua, and just make sure quality is number one. That is the number one thing for us, and always will be.
And it's something that's been bought in by everyone. We've talked a lot about Arthur, for example, tonight. Like he's of course, an extended part of the family. He's been with you guys for almost 30 years. But I mean, a lot of people, you guys pride yourselves on that. The average employee of Perdomo is 20 years at this point, 20 or 21 years, I think now, of everything. And that's some of the people that you learned under, because after you got done with the warehouse and you started learning other parts of the business, you spent time down at the factory. And what was it like working with Sarah Gonzalez and a couple of the other folks down there? What was that experience like?
Tremendous. Sarah is like another grandmother to me. God, there's no words that can say how much I love her. Just a special lady, tough lady. There is no cigar maker in the world that I'll put money on it that can make a better cigar than Sarah Gonzalez. She worked with me. She was tough on me because she loves me. There is still tough love still exists. And and you gotta have the perspective. She was tough on me, but I knew she loved me, and she wanted me really to understand the making of cigars, bunching, rolling cigars, and it was tremendous. I mean, I remember my dad had her work with me for a couple of weeks when I was during the summer when I was down there. I was there for almost 4 weeks, and I made 50 cigars, bunch 50 cigars, passed the wrapper over 50 cigars. So I worked with her. I was about 13 years old, and so just not to make cigars and sell them. It was just for me really to understand how to properly, take the Lieberman machine, hold the bunch together, take the binder, make sure everything went in one salt swoop, and how to properly pass the wrapper, the turns and everything. So she really gave me a lot of. She really gave me a lot of confidence and really just gave me some tremendous teaching. Working with Aristides Garcia, tobacco man, just celebrated 92, 93 years of age. He's been in the industry for 7+ years. Just again, he was another guy who really took me for the things that my grandfather taught me. Unfortunately, his time was cut short on this earth. Aristides really was able to show me about fermentation. Showed me about, again, using the eyes, the nose, the hands, the mouth, the taste of tobacco. Just wet case. I mean, everything. He literally, we have Desvalillo, which, going over different sizes of filler leaves, secos, visos, ligeros, and listen, my dad, I showed an interest, no doubt about it, always, but my dad always put me in different departments with different people. Miguel Rivera, our general manager, who I've known since I was 5 years old. That was my grandfather's. That was our guy. That was his guy, and he was the head of our packaging. I mean, just him, just taking me through the different departments and learning everything, because he's a guy who learned everything literally from the ground up. I'm just so blessed when I look back at 30 years of business and 30 years of my life. I'm just so blessed to have had and to have the teachings, from tremendous people who their last name's not Perdomo, but they treat the brand as if it was theirs. So for me, I'm grateful forever to these individuals, but I'm just so blessed there. That's all I can really say about that.
Yeah, I mean, it truly is a blessing. Like when you see, like when I had the opportunity to come to y'all's headquarters, this past spring, and I saw a lot of Perdomos, but I saw a lot of people that weren't Perdomo, and the way that they carried themselves, the way that they talked to each other, like you could feel the pride of everyone in that room, and there wasn't a shred of insincerity amongst it, which was really great. And we've talked a lot about Arthur tonight, and Arthur's in the chat, and he wanted me to tell you how proud he was of you and of all your accomplishments and everything. And I know you spent some time working under him too, and learning all the things that he's learned over the years from your dad as well. And Arthur kids me all the time, because I refer when I speak to Arthur, I always refer to him as Mr. Kemper. I know it drives him nuts, but he's always. But that was something too. For the longest time, you still. I remember you saying in an interview once how you would still refer to him as sir, and he wasn't. You weren't his equal. You weren't his. You weren't above him or anything. You were still very much. Just because you were Nick's son. There was a lot of reverence to what Arthur has done and does do for the company.
I call him sensei. Many interviews I've called him sensei. Arthur's a special person. He's a special human being. He's a tremendous man, family man. He's been an amazing right hand to my father for 20+ years. And Arthur has really taught me a lot. He's one of the hardest working men that I've ever seen in my life, alongside with my dad. But one of the things that he taught me, and you can tell when you look at packaging, from our brands, Perdomo Cigars, is attention to detail. With Arthur, when you do work, you never double check, you quadruple check. You always. It's everything's about attention to detail, making sure everything's right. And so he's always He's another one. He's, my dad's always been tough on me. Art has always been tough on me. And again, looking back, sometimes I might not understand, in my mind, well, man, my gosh, why is, but when I look back, when I take a step back, I go, it's because he cares. It's because he cares and he wants to make sure that I do the right job for not only what my dad's built, but what he's built alongside my dad and for our company. So, looking, he's an important piece that I'll always forever be grateful to, everything that he's taught me since I've known him, since I met him. I was 8 years old, 7 years old when I met Art as a little kid back in San Antonio in 1999 when he was wearing suspenders with his suit.
Nicholas, this has been so awesome talking to you about your journey and your family's history. And I love, like I said before, I love going down this road because, for a lot of cigar smokers that have been smoking for as long as I have since I was 18, Perdomo Cigars has always been one of those constants in our lives. That's been a part of my cigar smoking experience from almost virtually day one. And, it's, to have the opportunity to talk to him over the years, and now just have this opportunity to talk to you about it. It is incredible. And I really appreciate the opportunity. We're going to get to a little bit more of that here in just a second, but I want to take a quick break here. We're going to talk about we're going to have some of our fun segments. And of course, this next one is our presidential trivia segment. Don't worry, as I warned you before, it's multiple choice. But our presidential trivia segment is always brought to you by United Cigars, featuring La Havana, distributors Jose Dominguez, Bandolero, Garofalo, the Firecracker, and the highly acclaimed Atabey and Byron and now Alfonso lines from Selected Tobacco. Smoke one today and start living united. Now, Nicholas, you're obviously the son of an icon in this business. So I chose a trivia question around first children. So which president was the first and actually only executive to have a child while they were in the White House? Was it A, James K. Polk, B, Rutherford B. Hayes, or C, Warren G. Harding, or D, Grover Cleveland? So Polk, Hayes, Harding, or Cleveland?
C,
Warren G. Harding. No, I think his children were already in their, I think their early teens when he took office. But Grover Cleveland was actually he's the only president to ever have a child while he was in office, which is crazy to think about. And out of 45 plus presidents, and he's the only one to ever have it. So his second daughter Esther was actually was actually born in the White House, believe it or not, too. So that's kind of cool. So have you ever been to the White House?
I was in front of the White House. I never went inside. Always wanted to go.
What was it part of like a school tour? Was it a family vacation or?
We were on a family vacation. We were in Washington, D.C. So Washington, D.C. was where my dad was born. So we took my grandmother with us and we did a tour. We went to the church where my grandparents were married. We went through all the Capitol building, White House, Lincoln Memorial, Jefferson Memorial. So that was a pretty cool trip. But unfortunately, we weren't able to get into the White House.
That's too bad. Yeah, I was gonna say one day. That's right. Your father spent some time in Maryland, right? Before they moved down. The family spent some time in Maryland before they moved down to Miami.
Yeah. So my grandparents, they went to Washington, D.C. and my dad was born there. My dad grew up. I think my dad was in Washington, D.C. up until 2 or 3 years old. And my dad grew up in Baltimore, Maryland. Moved to Miami in 1978. He was 13 years old.
That's cool. Yeah, I bet that was pretty cool to go see some, so much of your family's history is obviously in Cuba, like you said before that, the Canary Islands and Spain and everything. So but to have that small snippet of your family's history that's tied so much to our country, which I know your father is a patriot too, which he loves this country, which is one of my favorite qualities that I love about him as well. So that's cool that he's actually, I didn't realize he was actually born in DC. That's cool. I didn't, that's a little piece of trivia I didn't know. Which place was your favorite that you visited in DC?
I always loved the Lincoln Memorial.
Mm,
I think that's incredible, totally fascinating.
yeah.
Totally fascinating. Walking up and seeing President Lincoln, as tall as he is, I thought that was pretty incredible.
I thought I think that place was really well done, well constructed, and it's a real tribute. He's my favorite president, so it's naturally a place that I gravitate towards. So that's pretty cool that you like it as well. So, well, awesome. I know we got a little off track, but that was our presidential trivia segment brought to you by United Cigars, featuring La Giana Havana, distributors of Jose Dominguez, Bandolero, Garofalo, the Firecracker, and now the highly acclaimed Atabey, Byron, and Alfonso lines from Selected Tobacco. Smoke one today and start living united. Now, this next segment, we've talked a little bit about it in between the show, and I was when you chose this, Nicholas, I was so pleased personally. But you have obviously a reason for it as well. Every week, I ask my guests to choose a nonprofit or charity of their choice to feature a spotlight, to talk a little bit about, raise some awareness. I'm always down for raising some money for charity. That's not the only reason for it. We always want to just spotlight a great cause, and you chose the Alzheimer's Association. Obviously, my audience is familiar with why that's very important to me, but there's a special reason why you chose it as well.
Unfortunately, some family members, close family friends, have been affected that I know. My great grandmother, Nelia Perdomo, she suffered from Alzheimer's, with dementia. My wife's grandmother, she has Alzheimer's and dementia, suffering from. And my uncle Billy, his mother-in-law, unfortunately passed and was no longer with us. She really had a terrible, suffered terribly from Alzheimer's and dementia. So something that it's a terrible disease, and I hope that enough money and time and technology can one day, cure this. It's a terrible thing to lose. You physically, your family members are with you, but mentally they're gone. It's a terrible thing.
Yeah, I mentioned this before, with my own father and everything. It's the worst. It is all diseases are terrible and all death is tragic. There, and I really mean when I say this, like I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy or anyone that they care about dearly too, because to see a man that I grew up with, with his impeccable memory and recall, and define him so much as a person, and for that to be stripped away slowly, painfully, to where he's a shell of the man that I grew up with and the man that I called father is absolutely it's gut wrenching. And the fact that you have so many people in your life, Nicholas, I'm so sorry that have suffered from it. It's so tragic. So tragic.
I'm sorry with everything you got to go through right now, Barry. You're in my prayers. So.
Oh, thank you. It's a really great association, guys. Check it out. I put it in the chat. It'll be in the show notes later. It's a fantastic cause. There's some other great Alzheimer's nonprofits out there as well. If you were so blessed to not know anyone or have been affected by this, I just encourage you guys to click on the link and get some education about it, because I think it's often misunderstood. And I think it's until you experience it firsthand, like Nicholas and I have, unfortunately, with people close to us, you don't realize how terrible it really is. And just check it out. Check it out. And if you feel called, give a little money. Because if they could find a cure one day so that no one else has to go through what Nicholas and I have gone through, then that would be a huge blessing. It would be awesome. So, what do you say we get on to some more cheerful stuff here? So this next segment is a little bit more learn about you, Nicholas. We talked about this. I call this segment "This or That." It's pretty simple. I give you two choices. It's more rapid fire.
Okay.
But I give you two choices and you pick one. So there's a couple of cigar things in here, a couple of other pop culture things, a couple other just personal taste stuff and everything. And so uh well, here we go. So the first one is Tears for Fears or In Excess.
Tears for Fears. Just ask Coop.
I knew there was personal favorite. In Excess is one of his personal favorite. He loves Tear for Fears too, but like In Excess is one of his. So I threw that one. This was definitely a for Coop question. So
You better take Tears for Fears over In Excess. I'll tell him that first.
Springsteen or Sting?
Sting all day.
Really? Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I was not expecting that one. Why do you like Sting over the Boss?
I don't want to offend people. I think more talent. I think he has a good voice.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. One more music one. Here we go. Eric Clapton or Bon Jovi?
Oh, come on, Eric Clapton.
There's something I love. I think Bon Jovi, I think, is a better entertainer, but musically talented Eric Clapton. I prefer Eric Clapton too myself.
Talent, yes.
Talent, 1,000%. I think Bon Jovi's a great entertainer, though. I really do like him as an entertainer. So, all right. To cigars now. Okay. I know you like the Sun Grown. I know you like Connecticut. I know you like Maduro. I know you like everything Perdomo, but Connecticut or Maduro wrapper?
Yes.
This is one of those no comment ones, right? Okay, awesome. Just
No
depends
comment.
on the time. Just depends on the time of day.
I really do love them both. I really
Yeah.
do. I really do. I mean, if I was on an island, I would take Connecticut.
Do you so like a lot of people say they start with I love a good Connecticut cigar in the morning, but I also love a good Maduro as well. Like do you have a preference in the morning, like which one you prefer?
I prefer either, but I mean, if I was stuck on an island and I had only one cigar to pick, I would pick Connecticut, but by that much.
Yeah. Yeah, the double aged Maduro, 12-year Maduro is my least favorite of the three, but there's something about that cigar with coffee. And you would think that they're too closely like related, that there's like kind of like they pair well together, obviously, because I think there's some similarities there. But there's something about that double aged Maduro that really like crushes the acidity in coffee for me in a really good way. And that's why I really like it.
That cigar, that wrapper, there was just such a natural sweetness. I mean, Maduro in Spanish, right? And there is that wrapper. And for me, in that blend, I love all the sizes, but my favorite, I love the Gordo Extra 6.5 by 60. To me, that cigar just, I can smoke that in the morning. I can smoke in the evening. I mean, I'm just so used to our cigars in terms of the tobaccos, using Nicaraguan tobaccos. We can't make mild cigars. Our cigars are medium plus at the least, in my opinion. But I think that our cigars, because we use such well-aged tobaccos overall, and our cigars are so balanced, I think it's like a fine whiskey, a fine scotch, or a fine bourbon, where it's not bitter, it's not, there's not a punch in the face. It's just smooth, and I think that's how all cigars really should be, in my opinion. I think it makes us so special.
Would you say that the 10th anniversary champagne is the mildest cigar in the portfolio? No. Which one do you think it is?
Well, I mean, I think our Perdomo Fresco, which is a bundle product, that's our mildest cigar.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
That would be the most mild cigar. But in terms of a boxed cigar, I would say our Perdomo Lot 23. I would say it's a lighter type of cigar, a little thinner ring gauge, 50 ring gauge. I would say it's a little lighter.
I remember the craft series Connecticut was for me was probably, from in my experience in my palate, I think it was the mildest cigar. I didn't think about their frescoes though. That changes my answer now. But until you said fresco, the craft series Connecticut was probably the mildest cigar that you guys ever made for me. It was real buttery. I remember it really being like this extra buttery, very like, and mild. It was, I kind of it didn't have that corny flavor, but it was almost like that buttered popcorn without the popcorn flavor. I know that makes no sense whatsoever to people who are listening, but but it was that kind of creaminess and very mild and delicate that I remembered about it. So haven't had one for years. You worked on, I know one of the first projects you worked on was the factory tour series, right?
Yeah, that was, going back. Well, really one of the, I mean, that was a cigar I was part of Arthur in terms of, that was a fun, it was back in 2015, I believe. We went to the printing, we had a printer in Orlando, Action Label. We were working with the graphic artists, and I was in my early 20s and just working that with Art. That was such a special experience. Him and I, being able to work together and with the printers and their graphics department. It was a cool experience, big experience.
I love some of the Perdomo swag that you guys create, the Perdomo Army t-shirt that you're wearing, the lighters and everything. And so when it comes to lighters, I know your father's preference, but what's yours? Do you like a quad lighter or do you like less flames?
I really have no preference, to be honest with you. If there's no wind, I like a soft flame, soft flame lighter.
Okay.
That's what I prefer. But I mean, in all honesty, I really have no preference.
Awesome. How long have you had that line too? The one you just looked, there's one that you just showed.
I think about a year ago.
Oh, okay. So not too long.
This is pretty cool. And this one, it opens up and it goes in.
Yeah, you have the dual. Yeah, nice.
Cool.
That's an heirloom piece, man. You're gonna give that to your daughter one day.
Yeah.
All right, let's so I know you like college football. So a home game here, this might be the toughest question. A home game at Alabama or the U?
The U.
What is it about that environment?
I'm a Cane fan. That's my team. I graduated from the University of Miami, and just some of the most special moments of my life was watching the University of Miami dominate college football. I was a kid going to the Orange Bowl, which the Hard Rock here in Miami isn't the Orange Bowl. It doesn't rock like the Orange Bowl used to, but I just have such great memories of my dad going to Little Havana and watching the University of Miami smack everybody in the face, and hopefully we come back. But I think we got a good coach now.
Man, well, I guess you were 9 or 10 years old during that infamous 2001 year where that team was just stacked.
I saw a stat today that if the team never scored a point on offense, they would have gone 8-4. Just
I saw that too. When I was and that's what brought up the question, honestly. Because I was thinking about this or that questions, and I saw this. I think we saw the same video on social media. It was like, yeah, if they had never scored an offensive point, they would have gone 8-4 because their defense and special teams was just so dominant. That's sick.
I never saw a team like that. I probably never will see a team like that ever again. It was special.
I don't think you will. 17 first round picks on that team. 17 of those players went in the first round. That's unreal.
Yep. It was incredible.
The talent that was on there, like who was it? Ed Reed was a backup in 01. That's scary.
Sean Taylor was a backup.
Sean Taylor was the backup to Ed Reed. That's right. Yeah.
Fourth string. Yeah, there was some crazy. Wolfork was a backup. Yeah, it was crazy. They were unbelievable teams.
I love the Frank Gore stat because Frank, was still playing last season pretty much. And like That guy was Iron Horse, man. Unbelievable.
The Iron Horse. That guy blew out both his knees. He was a special player, speed and power.
Yeah. Crazy. So your dad's trademark something that he passed on to every event, every rep, every person that does a Perdomo event. You guys are always, PCA, you guys are always in your suit and tie and everything. So but as far as your preference goes, would you rather do the suit with a tie or without a tie?
With a tie.
Always with a tie?
With a tie. Okay. I mean, sometimes depending if I'm outside or, if I'm doing an event or if it's outdoors and hot, I mean, I'll do an open collar.
Do you, what kind of knot do you do? Do you double Windsor or what's the go-to?
Windsor, double Windsor, depending on the collar. If it's spread collar, double Windsor. If not, a single Windsor.
Have you ever worn another tie? Have you ever tried the bow tie out or anything?
I did it. Yeah.
No,
yeah.
it didn't work.
Oh man, somebody was like, "Oh yeah, you got to tie your own bow tie." I went on YouTube. I was there for about 2 hours. I was going nuts. I had a charity dinner I had to do, and I found the guy I met. I said, "Hey man, you got to tie a bow tie." He's like, "Yeah." I said, "Tie this thing for me, please. I've been fighting for 2 hours." It was terrible in Pennsylvania. Never again.
So you're born and raised in Miami, so you've grown up around the beach and around obviously around the tropics, Central America, your travels and stuff like that. So when you go on vacation, do you want the beach, or would you rather go to like the mountains and maybe skiing or like a nice lodge with a fire?
I mean, depends. I mean, Nicaragua, for example, I went to a really beautiful beach. I mean, even though I have the beach here, my parents live on the beach. I went to the beach in Nicaragua, in an area called Tola, and it was absolutely beautiful. The mountains and everything. It looked like you were, almost felt like you were in Southern California. It was absolutely gorgeous. And I mean, I'm in between. I mean, I could do either or. I'm pretty open when it comes to that.
Nice. All right, last one. Video games or reading a book?
Reading a book.
Do you consider yourself well read? Do you read a lot?
No. What's
the last book you read though?
I've read Winston Churchill's autobiography.
Nice. It's a good one.
Man,
it's a good natural one. Yeah, unbelievable life. That guy's that's crazy. And not just the cigar part. I mean, that's a cool anecdote in like the man's rich history. It's cool.
Yeah.
So awesome. All right. Well, this takes us into our segment called Everybody Eats, sponsored by Perdomo Cigars. If you always make sure that your servant's towel is bigger than your appetite, everybody will always get theirs. Perdomo Cigars is more than just great cigars made by cool people. They embody an attitude of grit and gratitude. With Perdomo, everybody eats. I had the opportunity of being down there at the headquarters. You guys, I guess, do this pretty regularly. I had some of the famous hot dogs that you guys serve, and it was fantastic. So I know you guys, and I think it was around St. Patrick's Day too. And I think your mom put on a really great St. Patrick's Day spread and everything as well. She was talking about it with us. So I know that that food is a pretty cool part of your family, and you guys always go all out and everything. So I keep going back to this. I have like 3 questions in this category, but I keep going back to this one though, because I think it's just fun. What is a food or dish that you love that you wouldn't have tried if you hadn't been offered or forced to by someone else?
Escargot.
Okay. I love escargot. It's fantastic. Who made you try it, or where did you try it for the first time? Do you remember?
My dad told me, "Hey, try this." We were on a Carnival cruise line. And I must have been 9 years old. It was early 2000s. And we were sitting, he goes, "Try this." It was escargot. I loved it so much. I ordered like 3. I remember it had like it was like a little bowl that had holes in it.
Yeah, the plate. Yeah, with the
And this is unbelievable. And my sister's like, oh, it's snails. Like, well, I don't care. This is delicious. I probably never tried it, but it was delicious. I remember my dad said, you try this, you'll love it. And I did.
Yeah, man, the French try to do that, man. Just put enough garlic and butter on anything. It tastes fantastic. And snails are no different. It's so good.
Put garlic on a shoe and I'll eat it.
It's fantastic. That's awesome. Awesome. Well, that was our Everybody Eats segments brought to you by Perdomo Cigars. Escargot is the go-to dish. Nice. Nice. Have you gotten your wife to try it?
Yes.
What'd she think?
She liked it, but she'll say that she doesn't, but she actually did.
Nice. Nice. All right. Just a couple more questions here, Nicholas, before we conclude our evening. And I thank you so much for this opportunity to speak with you tonight. This has been such a tremendous honor for me. This is a segment that I think is, I'm really anxious to hear your answer, because I think there's probably some pretty cool moments that you've experienced like this over your lifetime. But it's our next segment is brought to you by Asylum Cigars. Refuge is more than just a physical place. It can be a state of mind. Some of life's greatest reflections can be found in our own personal asylum. Moments like these were made for Asylum Cigars. So light up an asylum and choose your refuge. You know, Nicholas, we've been talking a lot about tonight about family and community and what your cigars have cultivated over the years and what your dad has cultivated over the years with his history. And, you know, Perdomo Cigars are best enjoyed with people that you love. You know, we get to enjoy them all the time. And it's usually in a cigar lounge, or maybe it's with a few buddies in the backyard, or, you know, family events, celebrating a wedding, anniversary, birth of a child, things like that. But every so often we get the opportunity to smoke a cigar by ourselves and nothing else going on. You know, maybe it's to celebrate something, maybe it's for something a little less gravitas, but you know, it's great to have those moments, and you've probably had a couple in your lifetime. Can you remember a moment where you had a cigar like that? What was the cigar you were smoking, if you can remember, and if not, that's fine. And what was that moment about?
I remember it was probably 2013. 10 years ago, I was smoking when we came out with a Corona Grande size 20th anniversary sungrown. I remember I had an apartment in Coral Gables when I was at the University of Miami, and I still remember I'm smoking this cigar, and I said, man, just the flavor, the aroma, just the quality of the cigar. I mean, I remember just thinking, man, my family or company, we really made it. Like I said, man, better than this, you know. And I just remember thinking, I was thinking of my grandfather and just beautiful memories, and, you know, Nicaragua, you know, just my family, and just, I remember I was by myself, I had music playing, and I just said, man, this is like, it was a special moment. I was by myself. I had class the next day, and it was just like, man, this is like therapy. You know, it's just special.
It's bringing back memories to me. I mean, in college, man, I remember, you know, when my freshman and sophomore year, I smoked a lot with the guys, and I remember introducing a lot of people to cigars because I was just captivated by them, and shared a lot of cigars with guys over the first couple of years. But I remember, like, my junior and senior year, like, I really enjoyed those moments, like outside my dorm, just like, especially the night before a big test or something like that, and just really like lighting up a cigar and just really enjoying that moment for myself. And it was, like you said, it was like therapy. It really, you know, it got me to focus. It got me to like wipe away stress, you know, and just it meant, those times meant so much to me, even though I was by myself and everything, just because, you know, I think it represented what cigars really are capable of, you know. They bring a lot of people together, sure, but even, you know, in our most stressed part of our lives, they really keep us, they keep us grounded, they keep us sane. They're really fantastic.
Yeah, 100%. It's the cheapest way to get therapy, in my opinion. I mean, cigar takes your mind off things, and he just really gives you a chance to, especially when you're by yourself. You know, I can really enjoy the cigar. I mean, there's nothing like sitting with my dad, sitting with my father-in-law, good friends, and, you know, sitting over a good cigar, a good cocktail. There's nothing like that. But sometimes when you're by yourself and you really can think about the cigar, you really, whether I'm looking at new cigars, whether I want to blend something for the future, things like that, really able to, really think more, really take notes down, and whether I write it down or in my mind, about the cigar, what I want, or, is this perfect, or I need this, do I want more, whatever the case is. So, I like smoking by myself too.
Yeah. That was another memory for me too, when I was at your headquarters early this spring and stuff. And I walked into the office area where your desk is, and there are a bunch of other people there, obviously. And they were all, everyone was, of course, everyone was smoking. And like, I remember taking a little snapshot picture of it, because I remember thinking just like how happy everybody was. And, I don't know what was like, I know you guys were celebrating something else that day. But like at the same time, what was really cool about it was just like it's work, right? I mean, so there's like, they have their own, stressful things that they're probably focusing on and things like that, and projects that they're working on, including yourself. But just how like genuinely happy that they were. And like, and the cigars were obviously a part of that. And it was just, it was a really cool snapshot for me, because I'm like, hey, here are the people that make these cigars that I love, and they're enjoying it as much as I am. And that's really cool for me.
Yeah, we have a great environment in Miami, and we all get along, and we have a good time too. We sell a lot of cigars, and by service, distribution center. But everybody gets along. We have a great time, and it's fun when you sell a lot of cigars too. So
Yeah. Well, and I think that was evident too, like how well you guys got along, and like it wasn't, nothing was like forced, or anything like that. There wasn't like, in any office in the world, there's always like those one or two people that, people don't like, but you just never got that vibe. Like, it was great. Like, you guys just all really meshed well together, and it was just, it was a family. It really was. It was not just a business, it was a family. And I think that's, like you said, part of the culture you guys have cultivated.
no doubt about it. No doubt about it, Barry.
So, um, so there was something else I was going to bring up here, but it's escaping me, and it's so obviously it probably wasn't too important. But we'll go ahead and go. We'll wrap up our evening, of course, and this is our last question of the night. So, without further ado, our next and final segment is brought to you by Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust. It's our curveball segment. Yes, fastballs or curveballs, it doesn't matter since the company's inception. Steve Sock has been knocking them out of the park 8 consecutive years in the consensus top 3. Congratulations to our good friend, Mr. Steve Saka. So I think I told you before the show, I said, I hope I got the math right. Okay. But if I'm wrong, my profound apologies to your father. But here we are smoking the 30th anniversary. And I refusing to put this down because I'm enjoying it so much. So, but 30 years from now, God willing, I'll be smoking the 60th anniversary with you. I think that would be really cool. 60th anniversary cigar. But in 30 years, your father will be 88, if I'm correct.
Correct.
Okay, did the math right. Good. All right. What do you think? I'm going to go back. This is going to be a 2-part question. We're going to ask the trivial one, which is what's going to be the same. But what's going to be different about Perdomo Cigars in 30 years?
30 years, I think technologically, I think there are going to be things that improve efficiency, whether it's with tobacco, whether it's our operations overall in Nicaragua, our operations here in Florida and Miami. I think the biggest thing is probably technology. One of the things that we have to embrace, and I think this comes from my dad's military background, is when he always explained to me is that training was learning to adapt to change. And I think one of the biggest things that we have to do as a company, and because my dad set this culture of not just changing just for the sake of change, but changing for the better. And I think that we embrace change as a company, because if it's going to make us more efficient and things will make us better, we're going to change as much. We're going to change always because we want to continue better. The day that we stop changing, and in order to be more efficient, or in order to make the processes more efficient as a company, is the day that, you know, it's not going to be good for us. So I think overall, to answer your question, 30 years, I think the biggest thing is it's going to be technology, how to make tobacco maybe potentially better in terms of, you know, more consistent in terms of farming, probably things, you know, that could say, you know, in terms of, you know, viruses, spores, virus, different things, that, you know, maybe seeds. I mean, there's a million things to think about, but I would say it has to be technology. You know, I think technologically we'll be a totally different company. And I hope that, because I know things are starting to go in terms of other industries, there's a lot less face to face because of technology today. But I hope that our industry, which is not only just the handshake industry, you know, face to face, but, you know, it's a hugging industry. Everybody hugs each other when you see each other. I hope that never goes away. I hope it always stays personal.
Yeah, me too. I think that's something that I hope to see over the next 30 years, is just how that part won't change, because that's foreign now, you know, especially in today's fast-paced world and everything. You know, you kind of talked about efficiency there, and that's kind of exciting to think about, because this is something we certainly didn't touch on tonight until now. And I don't think I've ever touched on it with your father, but I know that he's been incredibly involved in the innovation in terms of agriculture and farming down in Nicaragua. Like, from my understanding too, like even the way that you guys plant seedlings was basically an invention by him, you know, using, I don't want to butcher it, but basically I've heard it's basically like using manpower and also using a tractor essentially to plant more efficiently and consistently and everything. I'm doing a terrible justice describing this, but I've heard about it, and it's pretty cool. I hope to see it in person one day soon. Just how awesome that is. But I mean, he's done a lot of innovation when it comes to like agriculture too, and I'm sure at the factory as well, it's kind of been pretty similar too.
My dad is a farmer. He really is, and I got to give my dad credit. We've been planting tobacco. We started the latter part of 99, 2000. And when my dad invests in something, he's not only just putting the money to do it, he invests himself. And that's something that I've learned as well from my dad, where when you're going to do something, you got to do it yourself. When it comes to agronomy, when it comes to just tobacco, when it comes to farming, my dad's an agronomist without an agronomy diploma from a university. And he probably knows more than any of those guys, to be quite honest with you, not just because he's my dad, but it's the truth. I've never seen someone invest himself in tobacco in terms of farming like my dad. Just never seen it before. He literally knows everything when it comes to pH levels, when it comes to the nutrients within the grounds, phosphorus, boron, potassium, nitrogen, levels per farm, within the lots, within the farms, the different zones. It's just incredible. His not only just his experience, but he's still always learning, even to this day, after he's made it. And it's unbelievable. My dad's mindset is that I'm behind, and I gotta keep pushing forward because I gotta get in front. And he's not behind. That's just his mindset. That's something I also admire.
Yeah, it's really cool to hear him talk about a lot of these things. And I know like the conversations that I've had with him have been really rich and educational. And I know he's been pushing me to get down there, and I really want to see y'all's facilities down there, because I know it'll be, yeah, I know I'm just going to nerd out and I'm going to have a freaking fantastic time.
I believe.
I'm going to fill notebooks with notes. It's gonna,
I think you'll stay.
probably. My kids wouldn't like that too much, but I I've said this to a couple of people over the last few years. We've had some people in this industry who've had, like yourself, have had children, and fatherhood looks great on you, Nicholas. It really does.
Like,
Um, but as great as fatherhood looks on you, grandfathership looks amazing on your father. It's brought off this youthful side in him. He looks and feels 20 years younger, man. Like he could do this for another, forget another 30 years, for another 60. I mean, do you think in 30 years, are you still working side by side with him? Is he still doing everything he's doing today, you think?
100%. My dad will work until the day he's no longer on this earth, in my opinion. My mom will try to pull him back. Family will try to pull him back. Not me, because I don't want my dad to ever leave. But um, he'll never stop. It's just, I think the day that my dad stops working, you got to really think, especially when it comes to the brain, which is the most powerful thing in our body. To be honest with you, my dad's been an air traffic controller, one of the most, mentally, I don't know if you use the word stimulating, but always using your mind, and becoming a business owner and running factories of, overseas, and distribution in Miami, and sales, and everything, tons of different departments within a business. To go from 100 miles an hour to zero, it'll never happen. Could he slow down? Maybe a little bit, but I never see it happening.
Yeah. I figured that was going to be the answer, and I hope to see it, because that'd be truly fantastic. What I think I kind of just led the witness here a little bit when I was asking this. What's going to be the same in 30 years? What's going to be the same at Perdomo Cigars?
Family. We categorize our industry from boutique, small boutique companies to big companies. There's a third segment, it's family companies. And when you really look at the industry today, you look at the top selling brands within retail stores, they're family run companies. And Perdomo Cigars is always going to be family run company. And to me, that's what makes us special. That's what makes this industry special. But in 30 years, we're going to be a family run company. And I'm hoping and praying that my daughter will be next to me and her grandfather. So that's something I hope and I pray for.
That'd be awesome.
One day one day her other sibling, when the time comes, be involved as well with their grandfather.
I'll end the show with this note, Nicholas. We talked earlier about, with the passing of your grandfather, you said it was like one of the only times that you ever saw your father emotional. And it was, I was particularly moved by the hand rolled the documentary that Jesse Marriott and Steve Garabine did, and your father was featured prominently throughout the documentary. And there was a moment I cried a lot through the documentary, because there were a lot of moving moments and powerful moments, but nothing I didn't cry. Nothing made me cry more than when I saw your dad tear up talking about your grandfather, and because he was getting emotional too. And I'm not ashamed to say I cried. I cried like a child, because I know enough about your dad that he's a tough and strong individual, and he's literally pulled himself up by his bootstraps to build this incredible family business that we've been talking about all night. And the honor and dedication that he's put in, and the credit that he attributes to your grandfather for that hard work is, it's vivid, and it's present every second of every day. You can tell every conversation I've ever had with him, you can tell. And so it was particularly moving for me. And just because of my own close relationship with my father too. And so it was a very moving moment for me. So that I wanted to end our show on that note, just how essential and how beautiful your family is, and what they've brought to this industry that I love and am blessed to be a part of. And I can't thank you enough for tonight. And thank you for your life's work, your father's life's work, your grandfather's life's work, and your great grandfather's life's work. It's brought a beautiful thing.
Mayor, I can't thank you enough. Thank you for the kind words, and really, this was so much fun, man. I mean, not even for an interview, but if you ever want to Zoom and have a cigar over call, let me know. This was a great time. I really enjoyed speaking with you, speaking in front of your viewers. And it's an honor for me and a privilege to be able to talk about my family, talk about our company, the past, the present, the future. There's big things in store for our company. There's projects for the future. And the whole thing is that it's my responsibility, and I owe my family everything that I have for everything that they've given me. And there's nothing more that I want to do as one of the younger members of our family, with the next generation. There's nothing more that I want to do than make my father proud, and up in heaven make my great grandfather and my grandfather very proud as well. I owe it to them.
Your mother's been in the chat all night, and she says it's time to go to bed because you have work in the morning. So do I. Thank you.
I'll still be up, Mom. I'll get a couple hours.
But if you got anything left, Nicholas, I'm gonna hold up my glass, and we're gonna cheer. We're gonna celebrate and toast to the 30 plus years of Perdomo Cigars. Here's to the next 30 and beyond. Congratulations, Nicholas. Cheers.
Thank you, my friend. Appreciate it. Cheers, there.
For everyone out there, keep those likes, shares, and comments. Keep them coming. We'll be posting this video later on our YouTube channel, Lolosa Fumar. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. You can tune in every Sunday night for a live broadcast of our show. Our 259th take will be next week. You can see who's going to be our upcoming guests later this week, as well as upcoming guests for the next couple of months as well. We've got some great shows planned for you. Definitely want to check those out. Keep those likes, shares, and comments coming. If you're listening to us later, wherever you listen to podcasts, whether that be on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Podbean, or wherever you listen to podcasts, including iHeartRadio, do me a favor. Be sure to download, subscribe, and review. And if you already are a subscriber, do me a favor, hit unsubscribe. But don't forget to hit resubscribe, because that actually helps my numbers and allows me to get great guests like Nicholas whenever I want. So please do that. So without further ado, that's the end of tonight's show. I'm Bear Duplessis, live from the Alec Bradley Lone Star studio of Azle, Texas. He's Nicholas Perdomo III. I'm Bear Duplessis, and guess what, everybody? We'll see you next time.